So I think that we're all highly individual and have very different brains, history, so it can be good to have options, and also it's important for us to have agency over our own recovery, our own approach. So yes, we learn from therapists, from experts, from hopefully videos like this, but we have to make it our own. We have to tweak and customize it because we aren't all the same. Mindful self-compassion from Kristin, Neff and Christopher Germer. We have the self-compassion break, so I would say definitely Google that and give that a go. There's links to that on the media page on my website at the Mindfulness Circle, so you could look at that and I would say practice that. Get you 5 a day of something like that. And what that adds to the process that we've had is this stage of common humanity. So in the middle between mindfulness and the self-kindness stage, we have this common humanity. We reflect that I'm not the only one experiencing depression and anxiety. There are others just like me all around me who are experiencing these difficulties, and that sense of connection can override the isolation we get with depression. I also like to do it with a imagery practice of reflecting on the people in our life who are supportive. So getting that sense of common humanity, that we're not alone dealing with these challenges, we are connected. And even if we feel alone, we can always build skills, we can always connect with new people. If people who are around us aren't kind and supportive, we don't have to stay with them. The self-compassionate thing might be to create some space and find some new people who are supportive. So that common humanity stage could be good there. I'm also a huge fan of compassion focused therapy, so Paul Gilbert's work, and so there's lots online for that, and the Compassionate Mind website is really good, has a lot of resources, so you might want to look at those. And I like from Paul's book, The Compassionate Mind, he talks about compassionate coping in the moment. And so in that framework, there's this sense of, again, using labeling, using mindfulness and labeling to notice and name what's going on, and then to bring in the soothing system. So using the soothing breathing rhythm. So this is this slow, smooth breathing pattern that we'll explore in a video, and we'll look at breathing options as well. So you could look up that soothing breathing rhythm, and that could be something to get us into the parasympathetic nervous system, calm us down, soothe us, not to get rid of the distress or difficulty, but to give an anchor, to give something to support us. And then also he talks about using compassionate imagery, so we can have this image of our compassionate self, so what we would look like when we're at our kindest, our most supportive, and we can visualize that part of us and contact that, connect with that. The simplest thing can be to think of a memory of when we were kind and supportive to someone recently, and to connect to that and to feel and get the imagery and gently connect with that. Or we can connect with a compassionate other, so we can have this imagery of a compassionate, supportive other, and people will use people from their life, from their history. If people are religious, they may use some religious figures. You might use your heroes through your life. You might just create one. So I like to use the image of a wolf and the image of a lion to be two compassionate imageries. I love animals, and for whatever reason that connects with me nicely. So you can use that imagery of these compassionate others, and you visualize that they're with you, supporting you, and really we're connecting to ourselves again. It's all our compassionate self and our memories and our history of compassionate others, and using that system to support us through the difficulty. So, in the compassionate coping in the moment, we can use that, so we can label, we can use compassionate imagery and other ways of getting into our soothing systems, soothing breathing rhythm. And then we can use compassionate thinking and those supportive thoughts as well. So it's again, very similar, just bringing in a bit more attention on the soothing system, the imagery, and there's a lot more to compassion focused therapy. So explore that, look at that, and we'll talk about compassion focused therapy in further videos. And so the very simple two-step process, part of where I'm getting my inspiration for that from is Russ Harris's work. So he has some wonderful ways of connecting with self-compassion. So you could look at his books, particularly Acceptance and Commitment Therapy Made Simple. So he has a brilliant section on that. And in that he talks about this tool that comes again from Kristin Neff, where you can use soothing touch. So for some people, and for many of us, it might feel a bit awkward or embarrassing to use compassionate touch to soothe us, but there's a science behind it. So our whole parasympathetic nervous system does connect to touch really well. So because of our history as mammals being soothed, our nervous system does connect to the skin, and touch and warmth and connection can really activate it. And we kind of know this, one of the best ways to release oxytocin is through a hug. And for most people, not everyone, depends if you have a trauma history or your attachment history, but for many people, touch will be soothing and connecting. And if it's not with humans, petting animals, we know that this will raise oxytocin and lower our stress response. And so we can do this very subtly. It doesn't have to be literally hugging ourselves. It can be just putting a hand on our heart if we're on our own, or if we're around other people, we can just massage our palms. No one even knows. You're just holding your hands together, or you just can put one arm around you, one arm on your shoulder, and just you could do something very subtle just to convey that sense of self-compassion. So you can add that on as a stage. And Russ Harris talks about connecting with the most painful emotional feeling and perhaps touching that. So if it's the ache in the heart, putting the palm on the heart, the gnaw in the stomach, putting the palm on the stomach, and just feeling the warmth and soothing from the hand, adding to that acceptance. So not to try and get rid of it, but just to add to the acceptance. So if that works for you, that could be good. Of course, just hug someone or pet your pet. That could be a very supportive and self-compassionate way. And there's other aspects to self-compassion. So you can just Google and explore it and really tailor it and make it your own. Find what works for you. And we'll cover a lot more, and hopefully some of the tools and ideas might resonate. But don't be afraid to customize and make it your own. And if something doesn't work, just don't practice it, or give it a bit of time to see if it works. If it doesn't feel useful, then move on. So we've got these different options here, and then I've obviously pointed to some resources that you could look further to explore these, so that might be worth doing. And also Barbara Fredrickson's work on the kind of research side of compassion, self-compassion, is great. And in her book Love 2.0, she has a lot of tools in there for developing self-compassion and how to activate compassion in relationship with others and connecting with others. So there's loads of resources on this. You obviously don't want to overread and kind of take on too much, but it might be worth having a little Google, finding one of these modalities that speaks to you, and then just exploring it a bit as further support.